Well, I trust this series has been a positive journey for you. And you know, as my wife, Diane, and I have attempted to live these things out, as we've discovered these truths of what does Scripture has to say, have we gone through some hard times and some good times, and those are in existence in every family, aren't they? God has taught us a lot, and it's been my honor to be able to share them with you and to take you through the things that we have learned and others on our team have learned. And now that God's doing some incredible things, we are just so excited to see the open doors that He's giving to our ministry and to other grandparenting ministries. You know, we feel confident in saying God is bringing about a national movement of grandparents. And we are seeing grandparents change the way that they respond to their families and their grandkids. And we believe that across this nation in the next years, there are going to be hundreds of thousands and millions of Christian grandparents that say, you know what, I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to do everything that I can to leave this earth, having given it my very best shot to see my family and those that I love most dear following God. Are you following God? Are you with me on that? I believe you are. I felt it in the way that you responded, and it's been just an incredible privilege for me to be able to be with you. During this last session, it's going to be pretty brief, and we're going to do three things. The first thing that I'm going to do is we are going to redefine for you intentional Christian grandparenting. So you should be at session number 6 in your book, and follow along with me on that. So that's going to be pretty brief. I'm going to give you some additional thoughts about that. And then we want to have a time of just hearing testimonies about what God has spoken to you, what you're thinking, what the Holy Spirit has impressed on you and your heart. And that's what we're going to do live. We have testimonies on the video. If you're watching by video, I hope that you'll take a time away from watching this and actually do the same thing in your group, that you would go around the group and say, you know, what has God told you? What has God said to you in your life through this study? And so we're going to take a time to celebrate that and to hear from you. So those of you here in this room, be thinking about what you might share. What has God impressed on you? What's God said to you during this time? And then I'm going to end with a monologue. And the monologue is something that I end every seminar with, and I trust will be meaningful for you. I'm going to tell you and give you instructions on that. So we're not going to go a long time in this, very, very brief. Let's do the first part. Let's once again define intentional Christian grandparenting. And just define it one more time for you. And here's the definition with the things to go in the blanks in your book that you have there. An intentional Christian grandparent. They are ones that build strong relationships with both the parents and the grandchildren. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Intentional Christian grandparents have to build strong relationships. Why? Because the parents are the gatekeepers to the relationship with the grandkids. Does that make sense? And I want to say to you, especially the mom. So if you are grandma, I want you to think about the fact that the most important relationship for you is the relationship with your daughter or your daughter-in-law concerning having impact in the lives of your grandkids. After all, you've been mother bear. There's a new mother bear, and she has a right to protect her cubs just like you did when your kids were little. And you need to value that relationship and focus on making that the very best you can be. It may be that you leave this seminar, the very first thing that you do is say, you know what, I got to work on the relationship. Nothing else is going to happen until we work on that. If you're a grandpa, and you have a son-in-law that maybe isn't quite as mature as you think he ought to be, give him a little grace. After all, remember what you were like in your 20s or whatever the age is as well. Give him a little grace and love on him and encourage him and help him and stand alongside of him. And let's work on that, because strong relationships with both parents and the grandchildren is exactly important and essential towards being able to influence those grandkids. So you start in intentionality with the relationships with the parents. Here's the rest of the definition. Intentional Christian grandparents build strong relationships with both the parents and the grandchildren, and they approach every interaction as an opportunity to influence their grandchildren and perpetuate their faith to future generations. This is what has changed for my wife and I. We now, our lives are quite entwined with our little grandkids, the little set of grandkids that we have. But even though they come over several times a week, and they only live a mile away and come over to our house a lot, every time they come over, Diane and I are thinking, what might we do today? What could we do to have an influence now? And we don't always do it. We sometimes mess up. We sometimes forget. Sometimes we don't do it well. But I want to tell you that we're thinking about every opportunity. What can we do? And what has changed for us is that intentionality. That we approach every opportunity and say, what can we do today? We just decided a week ago, because we're videotaping this close to the Christmas season, you know what? We're going to have Christmas carols, our kind of Christmas carols, going on in our home the minute they walk in the door every morning. We want to be an influence, just the little things, but we're going to do the little things to influence them. So that's the definition of an intentional Christian grandparent. Are you ready to be one? So that's the definition. Let me also just encourage you about some thoughts that still might be lingering, things that might still be hanging around, and we want to take care of them. One of this, an intentional Christian grandparent. On the slide it says a legacy one. We're talking about the same thing. An intentional Christian grandparent is one that goes beyond spoiling. You know, that joke about sugaring them up and sending them home, it just isn't funny to me anymore. I just don't laugh at it because I'm so far beyond that. I don't want to just spoil my grandkids. I have way higher goals for influence than just spoiling them. I'm not going to just sugar them up. That's an old, tired joke to me. And you know what? I'm going to go way beyond that. And that's what an intentional Christian grandparent does. They focus on intentionally influence. That's the key word. I want to intentionally what? Influence, not spoil them. I want to influence them for God and for things that are good. Second thing that I would remind you of that we really haven't talked about is an intentional Christian grandparent's willing to go beyond their own failure. You see, here's a difference between family and the church. Very few of us are in a church where we've gone ever since we were little kids. So we can have some things in our past, maybe our own personal failures, things that didn't go well, and we don't have to share them with our current church family. You know, we can walk in and act all holy and good, but in the back is something that wasn't so good. And God may have forgiven us and stuff, but we may still be having some shame or some feelings that we just don't want everybody to know. Here's the problem with family. They know it. They know our failure. They know our past. And sometimes that failure can make us feel disqualified to be that intentional example in the lives of our grandkids. We may feel like, you know what, they know. They know what happened. They know this thing and that. And so who am I to be that kind of influence? And I want to tell you, look, every single one of us is broken. Every single one of us has some failures. There's no Jesus in this room, except for the one that's, all present with us. But you understand what I'm saying. We all have things that we've done that aren't right. And you know what? Those things that we've done aren't right, if we're transparent about them, can be tools for incredible good in our family. Our own failures. You know what? Your grandkids are going to fail. And if you're transparent, you can lift them up and support them because you know what? Grandpa was right there. Grandpa did something similar. Grandma did something similar. And our failures can be tools to use for good. Amen? We can use those as a good thing. Here's another one. Legacy grandparents are one who set aside past hurts. Another thing that often gets in our way is a deep, deep hurt that maybe our child or our child's spouse inflicted on our family. Maybe there's some hurts that are just so deep. And, I've heard of families, we haven't said it in ours, but But there have been families that are hurt so deep, the parents have said, "You're not my child anymore," because of the terrible thing they did. You know, don't ever say that. Don't ever, ever, ever say that, because when you do that, you're cutting off the ability to also influence your grandkids. And you know, there's going to be hurts, deep, deep hurts. And if you have been hurt, if you've been the victim of a hurt, it's not you that have failed. It's another family member. It's that adult child or someone that they have failed, and they've done some things that deeply, deeply embarrassed or hurt your family. Let it go. Let it go. You can't change that past. All you can do is make a difference for the future. And let that hurt be an opportunity for you to show grace in a way that the world doesn't know. Let that hurt be a way for you to show forgiveness that shines the light of Jesus Christ to everybody that's watching. And the fourth one that I would say is, let's get beyond retirement. Now, you can retire from your job. You go right ahead. You enjoy it. You enjoy your pensions if you've got them coming. You enjoy those retirement programs and that funds that you have stashed away. But don't you use retirement as an opportunity to neglect your family. Don't retire from your kids. Don't retire from your grandkids. Make sure that when you get to the end of this life, you will have said, "You know what, I gave it my all." I believe the retirement years are God's opportunity for us to actually make the greatest impact that we have in life. I believe that for me. I believe that for my wife, that in the years that are ahead, our impact on this world is going to be greater than it's ever been, but not because of anything public that we do, but because instead of the deep devotion that we have to our children and our grandchildren. And that impact, while it may not be as wide, will be deep. That will be the legacy that we leave. Well, that's what we mean by an intentional Christian grandparent. As we've gone through the day, as we've gone through the seminar, I trust that we have painted the picture well for you of what it means to be an intentional Christian grandparent. And in a little bit, I'm going to ask you, are you willing? Are you willing to take a stand with me? Are you willing to say with me, "I will be an intentional Christian grandparent"? And as we started the day, as we started the seminar, I said, you know what? I want all of you to take one step. If you haven't already, I want you to take it today. And the step is from being a Christian grandparent to being an intentional Christian grandparent. Are you ready to take the step? You know, as we have done these seminars, one thing that we have found is that when people walk out of this and they hear the message, they deeply love their grandkids and they love the Lord. And so what happens is, instead of a conference high, there's a permanent change, and people walk out and they say, "You know what? I'm never the same again. I'll never go back to what I was before. I'm on a different path. I'm on a new path now." And it permanently changes them because of the message of, you love your grandkids, you love the Lord, let's give it everything we got to find the intersection between those two feelings. Let's influence our grandkids with all that we have to follow God. Here's what we're going to do. I want you to see some testimonies. I want you to watch some testimonies of those that have already gone through this. And now they're a year or two or more down the road, and God has changed them. And I just want you to hear a few words from them about what has happened in their lives and in their marriage and in their families as they've begun to implement this idea of being an intentional Christian grandparent. And then when those are done, then we'll finish with the challenge. Okay? All right, that's what we're going to do.
We are George and Marty Ellis of South Elgin, Illinois. When we were first made aware of the grandparenting seminars provided by the Legacy Coalition, we were eager to register and attend. The responsibilities and the roles that were provided during this seminar were something that we knew was essential in providing a biblical legacy to our grandkids.
They shared a verse from Deuteronomy 4:9 that talks about we need to share biblical truth with your children and your children's children. The time that we spend with our grandchildren, we try to be intentional, sharing, and we ask them if they have prayer requests. We just really want to make every moment special, and we've learned so much from the seminar, and we're just so glad we were able to attend.
We're Gary and Marcella Cardinal. The word that I think stuck out and stuck clearly in our hearts was the word intentional. It was a challenge for us to be intentional because we were living 250 miles away from our closest grandkids. We started on a venture to make a move, and we just a month ago moved within 15 miles of our oldest son and 3 grandchildren, and it's just exceeded all of our expectations.
It's given us the opportunity to share with those grandchildren more of our faith model for them on a more daily basis or week to week. And just this week, Gary has actually invited our granddaughter, who's 15, to join him in reading the book of Luke, engaging in conversation about the birth of Jesus and possibly deepening her faith and her walk, her Christian walk.
Hi, we're Tom and Eileen Johnson.
And we've always had a heart to share Jesus with our family and especially with our grandchildren. But after we attended a legacy conference in Texas in 2016, we really realized we needed to be more intentional about how we did that.
And so on the trip home from that conference, we made a decision to start immediately. And it happened to be around Thanksgiving time. So what we did was we decided to tell some faith stories about our family, how their legacy proceeded before us.
And not only did our grandchildren like the stories, but our kids were interested and said, why haven't you told us this before? And so we were really challenged to continue doing that. And so it's been our tradition since that time. Whenever we're all together, we share something about someone in our family and how the Lord has been faithful through all the years to them and to us.
And so our grandparenting has changed significantly and for the future.
Hi, my name is Steve Nunneman, and this is my good friend Tom Schwartz, who I've known for over 20 years. Tom and I both went to the first Legacy Conference a couple of years ago.
One of the things that I took away from that conference, not only are we the second most important influence in our grandchildren besides their parents, but that teenagers need to have people in their life that can be beyond the media and all the other influences they have, but are someone who will listen to them, spend time listening, and respect them.
Or the light never comes on until it's brought up. There's more than out there than just being a playmate. As wonderful as that is, you know, I find now, while I'm playing with my grandchildren, there are circumstances that present themselves where I can just mention a little bit about Christ, and the opportunities are there. It's just being able to recognize them. And you and I have talked about that.
Oh, for sure, all the time.
Well, that's wonderful. I know that you are thinking and going through many of the same thoughts and emotions that we have in the past. I want to ask that you pray for us, pray for our ministry, pray for the grandparents in America. As you pray for our country, we realize that we still have an opportunity to make a huge impact. Our impact is not over. We may be in the fourth quarter of life, some of us, but even in the fourth quarter, teams come back and win. There's been some great comebacks, and let's do a comeback if that's what's needed. I want to end with something I call my declaration, and this is really my personal testimony. It's my personal expression of what God has stirred my heart about, and I put it in the form of a monologue, and I want to share it with you. And as I share it, I want to ask you to just kind of watch the screen and listen to the words. But then, if there's a point where you say, you know what, Larry, I'm all in. I'm with you 100%. I hear what you're saying. I hear the words that you're saying, and I want you to know they express my heart as well. Would you indicate that at whenever you want by just standing to your feet and joining me in this declaration of being an intentional Christian grandparent? This is my declaration. I am a grandparent, but I am more than that. I am a Christian grandparent. I believe in the Bible and in the God of the Bible. I've received the grace of the gospel of the Christ of the Bible, and I desire to be a lifelong devoted disciple. I want my grandchildren to do the same. You see, I'm a Christian grandparent, but I am more than that. I'm an intentional Christian grandparent. I love my grandkids. So I will hold them when they're born. I will cuddle them when they're 1. I will chase them when they're 2. I'll read to them when they're 3, and I'll play with them when they're 4 and laugh at their jokes when they're 5. I will support them. I'll exhort them. I will cheer them. I will revere them. I will praise them, even help raise them. I will be there for them because I am an intentional Christian grandparent. Because I'm an intentional Christian grandparent, though, I will do more. I will pass on my faith. No, I'll do more than that. I will perpetuate my faith. I commit to teaching 2 generations. And I will think 4 generations. I will ponder, what kind of grandparent must I be so that my grandchild becomes one like me, and then his carries on the legacy. You see, I am an intentional Christian grandparent. Culture says go play. I say no thanks, I'll pray. Culture says pursue affluence. I say I'll pursue influence. Culture says you're old, you did your time. I say not so, I'm in my prime. Culture says to those younger generations, you can't relate. I say it isn't true. My influence is great. You see, my grandchildren need me. But from me, they need my godly wisdom. They need my Christ-like example. They need my faith stories. They need my earnest prayers. They need my uninterrupted time. They need my unconditional love and my God-authorized blessing. So what is intentional Christian grandparenting? Let me spell it out for you. It means I will guide grandkids with grace. I will respect parent roles. I will abound in my affection. I will nurture their nature. I will deal with the dilemma of distance. I will pray with passion and purpose. I will adjust my attitude in case I need to restore relationships. I will excel in my example. I will number my days. I will tell them my testimony. I will intentionally influence. I will never neglect the newest generation. And most importantly, I will give them the gospel because I am an intentional Christian grandparent. Are you?